Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our early training presentation. So this is a presentation that you get to watch on your own leisure that talks about the most important things for the first week home until you get that home visit with your puppy training supervisor. Good. So we'll just jump right in. Your first day home, you want to make sure that there are two people at pickup, one for driving and one to hold and comfort the puppy. We've had it in the past where people came by themselves and they tried to drive home with the puppy by themselves, and there's just nobody there to comfort the puppy, and it's usually a bit of a hectic situation. The puppy jumps up on the seat. The person, it could get dangerous, but even if you bring a crate, it's not a good first outing, and most of the time it's the first time the dog is in the car, so you can cause issues there in that the dog has the first experience with the car is negative, and now you're going to have to undo that, versus if you do whatever you can to make it a more positive experience, it's going to go much better. After the car ride, you give the dog a chance to relieve. Probably they have to go, so don't just take them right inside. Give them a chance to relieve themselves and then go into the house. Usually everybody's really excited about a puppy, especially if there's kids in the mix. So you want to make sure that the excitement, everybody tones it down a little bit. Things should be calm, and we got to give the dog some space and not overwhelm the dog. So if you do have kids or you're really excited yourself, just make sure everything's calm and low key. That makes it much easier for the dog. Show them the most important areas of the house, including the water dish, and then limit the areas they can explore. Like, they basically just spend time in their puppy pen so far. So your living room is already huge to them. And if they have the whole house, they might get overwhelmed, or they might get into trouble. Either one. It's not great. Good. So really important with puppies is what we call management. So you do not want to let your puppy practice unwanted behavior by creating an environment that sets the dog up for success. You want to puppy-proof your house by removing items. So you're going to remove you're going to remove the shoes, for example. You're going to remove plants that are at a certain level where the dog can chew it. And you place things out of reach. The other thing you want to do is you just restrict the area again, where you put baby gates up or whatever, other measures, or shut the doors to certain rooms, and then the dog can't get into trouble there. As your dog becomes more trustworthy, they can earn more freedom. And another way to leash to manage your dog is to leash your pup up during times of high excitement. So if you have kids and they come home from school, maybe put the dog on a leash. Or if you have guests entering the house, kids playing, meal preparation, anything where you're like, my dog tends to get into trouble doing those things. They get overly excited, start jumping up or anything. You just put them on leash so that they can't do the unwanted behavior. So having the leash in the house is really good. And that could be a leash held in hand, or a dog dragging a leash. If the dog just, and it doesn't need to be a leash, it can just be a string that you attach to the collar that the dog drags around. And then when you see your dog heading for that couch that he likes to chew on, you can just step on that leash and prevent them from getting there without having to grab the dog. Because what happens if you try to get to the dog, they start playing keep away potentially, because they learn it's like, oh, you're trying to get me and avoid me from getting to the couch. And then what happens is that they oftentimes have fun playing keep away. Another good example for when the leash comes in handy is when they try and bite your feet. If you don't have a leash on the dog, like, all you can do is grab the dog, push them away, hold them back. But usually what that creates is like kind of a fun game for the dog, and they just try harder. With the leash, you can put an end to it really quickly. You grab the leash, you kind of straight arm it, and now the dog can't get to your feet anymore. And when they stop, you let the leash go. They might try again. You do it again until the dog stops, and then you can let the dog free again. So it's a really good tool, but just want to mention here that you can only do that when the dog is supervised. You cannot have your dog dragging a leash when you're not around, because they could tangle themselves. So it's only when supervised. Good. Chewing. So chewing is chewing on items. If your pup is chewing an item that they are not supposed to, interrupt the behavior by using noise such as clapping your hands or saying hey in a sharp tone. So whenever I catch a dog doing something unwanted, I'm going to go hey, and then they probably startle a little bit, and then I'm going to redirect them. It's like, get over here, and give them an item that is appropriate to chew on. Afterwards, this is really important, and that's why it's in bold. Afterwards, ask yourself how you could prevent this from happening in the future. Because, so you could redirect the dog before they start to chew. You head over to that area where they tend to chew. I'm going to call the dog over, show them something, lure them away, whatever needs to happen. You could block the area off so that the dog doesn't get to it anymore, or you could provide more opportunities for appropriate chewing. So you could give them more, like you could rotate toys, you can buy another toy that they can chew on. The more outlet they have, the more different textures they are allowed to chew on, the less inclined they are to go for your furniture. We do use a Vicks VapoRub to put on those things when we have repeat offenders. Typically they don't like it and they stay away from it then. So that can be a useful tool as well. What I was gonna say about this part here, redirect them to a different activity. You have to be really careful here, because if you don't ask yourself how you can prevent this from happening in the future, and this repeats itself, like dog goes, chews on the couch, you go, no, interrupt, and then bring out a fun toy or call him and give him a treat. Now the dog might learn that if I chew on the furniture, Matthias will bring out fun stuff. Like nothing was happening. I went over to the couch. Matthias got up. I said, like, hey, he was a little stern at first, but then he brought out something really fun. So if that repeats itself, you're gonna, very often we accidentally create behavior chains where the dog then does the unwanted behavior in order for you to get you to produce something that he wants. So mouthing is what we consider in terms of mouthing your hands rather than, so chewing is chewing items, mouthing is your hands. What you can do there to help your dog up for success is move slowly and keep excitement low. Typically, when you're really low, calm, moving slowly, they're much less inclined to bite. When you run around, when you have a squeaky voice or like just an excitement tone of voice, they're much more likely to react. So with kids, that can be difficult sometimes because they do typically move fast and have exciting voices. It also depends on how your dog is exercised, mentally stimulated, and gets enough rest. So a lot of times when we get a lot of mouthing, it's related to the dog being either understimulated, overstimulated, or not having enough rest. And the behavior all looks the same, so you kind of have to just play around with things. But a lot of times it's not getting enough rest. A lot of times when we get puppy raisers that complain a lot about biting, then we look at how much sleep is the dog getting, and it turns out the dog is always awake and they're overtired, and now they have trouble. You provide outlets for chewing, again, like the more things they're allowed to chew on, the less likely they use you as a chew toy. You keep a light leash on, mentioned already. And if the dog bites, end all games, remove your attention and completely disengage. So if the dog, or if you're playing or you're petting the dog and everything's great, but then the dog gets overly excited and starts biting you, then you just want to teach them, like, as soon as you lay your teeth on my hand, like, I'm out of here. I don't want nothing to do with you. And that can make a really big impression. Again, if it happens, don't beat yourself up, but ask yourself how you could prevent this from happening in the future. You could keep things more mellow, you could provide more exercise, or you could have quieter days and ensure that the dog sleeps enough. This is really key. You have to analyze the situations, and I find the people that find success, they're really good in realizing, finding patterns. They're like, okay, it's every time around dinner time my dog gets really mouthy or barky or whatever, and then they adjust things and provide some exercise right before dinner time, or provide a Kong before dinner to keep the dog occupied and prevent the unwanted behavior from happening. And the ones that struggle more, they just like kind of the blame gets put on the dog, and it's just like, oh, like the dog keeps biting me, but no, they don't look for how they can change their behavior to make it stop. So that's really key, and a lot of times it's hard to find out what it is that you could change, and I feel like that's really where you want to talk to your supervisor, because we can often pinpoint things. Like if you tell us like this is what's happening, whatever, and then we can come up with like, look, it could be X, Y, Z. And a lot of times then people go like, oh yeah, I think the one suggestion you had there, I think that's what works for my dogs. They try it out, and then it's all moving into the right direction. House training routine. So in the beginning, when we do house training, you will need to decide when it's time for your pup to relieve. Common times include after sleeping, playing, and eating. So almost every time there's a big change of activity. So when they've just eaten, they played, they stop playing. Also, when somebody comes into the house doing high excitement, like somebody comes in, guests enter, like that's often times when the dogs need to go. So you can just go at those intervals. The dog got up from sleeping, I'm just going to take you out. The dog was playing heavily, I'm going to take you out when I'm done. And after eating, after drinking, shortly after, I take the dog out again. You can also set yourself a timer, just do every maybe hour and a half to 2 hours in the beginning during the day, night not so much. But over time, you should really learn to read your dog's signals and figure out when they have to go. Anyways, if you decide that it's time to go, then you go to the door and you ring the bell yourself at first. You just ring the bell, leash your pup up, ring the bell, and then take them outside. So in the beginning, I ring the bell myself for the first couple of days, and then pretty quickly I'm going to encourage them to ring the bell themselves. So I leash them up and I point towards the bell, and a lot of times, even by accident, they just nose the bell, and then I go, "Yay, good girl!" and off we go out the door. Once you're outside, dog is on leash, always on leash when you do leash relieving. We stand in one spot and we give them the length of the leash to find a spot to relieve. You want to keep them in that circle. So we go out, we're going to be choosing the spot, and then we're going to stand there, and that's where the dog has to go. It's really important, because if you wander around with your dog and let them choose their spot, which they love to do, they love to sniff and like, no, not here, not there, not there, and then it becomes a habit really quickly, and it can be really stressful actually for the dogs to not be allowed to choose where they can relieve. Once you stop trying to put an end to that, they sometimes have a really hard time. So it's better to just from the beginning be there, because then it's usually not a big deal. And then we use the phrase "get busy" and praise them when they relieve. So a lot of times people go outside, they get out there, and as soon as they're outside, they go, "Get busy, 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 get busy, busy, busy." And then it just becomes this long sing-song, and the dog doesn't really understand. So what I would do instead is you let the dog be, and I don't say busy when they play with a leaf or something. I wait for the dog to be basically ready to pee. You can see it by the body language. They're like, oh, getting ready now. And that's when I'm going to say, get busy. Then the dog goes get busy. Good, busy, good girl. And that way it's more paired with the, like every time right before they go get busy, we say get busy, and eventually when you say get busy, they like really make the connection, I need to go. And I think sometimes it literally like triggers it. It's as if I ran a tap water and that like triggers me to go pee. It can have that effect. Once they're done, especially with number 2, you want to have your pup sit and wait while you clean up. Because oftentimes they have the puppy zoomies, and they run around or they just wander around, and we want to just get them in a habit to sit still while you clean it up. So here's an example of what that would look like. Just before the dog starts there, I would say get busy.
Busy.
Yeah, lots of praise, touch him. Or sit. Obviously, you have to teach the sit first before you can ask for sit. They'll learn sit really quickly. Good. We do want to touch them as they relieve themselves. You want to touch the back because our blind, visually impaired clients, they will touch the back to figure out whether it's a pee or a poo. So depending on the way the back is arched, they will then know whether they need to pick up. So that's something you want to just ease into. We don't want them to be scared of your hand coming to touch them. So you move slowly towards it, touch them lightly with a finger. If that goes well, you can start really patting them as they're getting busy. More house training, you want to relieve your dog on leash on different surfaces and never in jacket. So leash relieving should always be on the leash. Relieving should always be on the leash. So every time you take your dog out, even though you could just open the door and let them out in the yard, no, you put the leash on, you go out, because otherwise you're going to potentially create a dog that doesn't want to relieve on leash and they wait for it to be free run. This way you creating a dog that is willing and eager to relieve on leash. Usually people have one spot at the house that they go, and that's good. You want kind of like have the number one spot, but at the same time we do need to teach them to go on all kinds of different surfaces and never in jacket. So when you're out on a walk and you notice that your dog has to go, if they indicate, you're not just gonna let them go in the jacket. What you're gonna do is you're gonna I would deny them to go right there. So dog does a little pee walk and I was, come on, let's go a little further, just a few steps. And then I'm going to take the jacket off and I'm going to bring them to a spot. I'm like going to say, get busy and let them have their time there. And then over time, we want to fade away. Like in the beginning, you will have to do that during your outings. As the dog gets older, we really need to move away from relieving on walks. So you want to have to just go in the beginning of the walk and at the end of the walk. And during the walk, so the way we get there is that we will, if the dog indicates in the beginning, we take the jacket up right after and let them relieve. And then slowly I'm going to ask the dog to go a little further to like 30 feet, 60 feet, a minute, 2 minutes, and then we can push it towards the end. So I'd rather have my dog relieve on a walk but jacket off than on a walk in jacket. That would be our biggest goal. So we can work with a dog that indicates, but really the end goal should be a full clean walk. When they ring the bell inside, then we take them to relieve, not to play. So whenever they ring the bell, we go outside and we relieve. You can play after as a reward for relieving, but never take them outside and let them just explore or play or whatever after ringing the bell. Before relieving. Once they've relieved, you can do that. Sometimes they do ring the bell to go outside. They make that association. I can ring the bell to go outside. So don't stay outside very long. If the dog rings the bell, go outside, give them a chance. If they don't go, back inside. They might ring again, you go outside again. And if it's clear that the dog doesn't have to go, if your dog rings the bell, you go outside, relieves, you come inside and they ring the bell again, just ignore that. So that they can learn, they should learn that it's only for relieving. You want to limit the access in the house to reduce accidents. That's huge. It can make a big difference. So you want to have the dog really not too far from you, because the more they can wander, oftentimes it's out of sight when it happens. Like you don't even see the dog. So make sure the dog is in sight. What can help sometimes if there's problems, what can help is that you can tie the dog to you with the leash when you're sitting at the desk, for example, so that when the dog gets up and wanders away, now you're gonna notice because you're attached to the dog. So that's something I usually suggest as a troubleshooting, not immediately. If caught in the act, you can interrupt by clapping or using a sharp tone of voice and then pick them up to finish outside. So that can be a teaching moment. If the dog is going right in front of you, you're like, hey! And then oftentimes they like startle a little bit, they stop. You pick them up, go outside, and then outside you tell them, get busy, and now they finish outside. And now they've learned that inside there wasn't that fun. Outside, once they go, we go, good dog. Good learning opportunity, right? If they go, if you miss the moment and they've already fully relieved themselves, or they, like you just find a puddle, there's nothing you can do other than clean it up and think about how you can prevent future accidents. So we don't scold the dog or whatever. And even the other thing, it's not meant as a scolding the dog. It's meant to interrupt, to have them freeze for a second so that you can then bring them outside to finish outside. Good. Next, we'll talk about car travel. So you want to start with very short trips during the first week. And you want to make it comfortable. So in the first week, we really want to spend at home and not do a whole bunch. So you go for car travels that are just for the dog. You go in, drive around the block, go outside. Ideally have somebody with you to make it easier. Provide a blanket and chew toys to make them more comfortable. You can bring it for the first few times Kong with some peanut butter. So any area where we have the dog potentially get uncomfortable, we can use a Kong or put a bit of peanut butter in a bone to help them out. What you want to make sure is that you're not going to sorry. You want to make sure that you're not stuck on that's not a tool that the dog needs. So like if I were, for example, to go to a restaurant and give my dog a peanut butter Kong every time, now the dog eventually comes to expect it. And then if I stop, then the dog's like, well, I don't know how to settle without a peanut Kong, or worse, like they even demand one and like start pawing at you or whatever. So in the beginning, the first few times, to make them feel comfortable, you can use it, but you want to move away from that as a tool rather quickly. You can place a box or a suitcase on the seat to prevent jumping up. You can also tether the pup if necessary. So a good idea is sometimes all cars are set up a little different, but what works a lot is either clipping the leash into the door and shut it, or put a knot in the leash and put it in the glove box so that the dog is back tied so that they can't jump up on the seat. Obviously, again, never leave the dog unattended when they're tethered. This is just to prevent them from jumping up. Ensure they're comfortable with the person there or not. So when we have them, car travel is in the passenger footwell, and they should learn that sometimes there's a person there and sometimes not. So in the beginning, provide a person if possible, and then pretty quickly move to them being there by themselves with a peanut butter Kong or something. Why not just think of it with peanut butter? You do want to be careful going into restaurants with peanut butter, or really those public places, because of people that might have allergies, right? Okay, home alone. Be sure to leave the pup home alone for short periods of time the first week. So you can start this right away. During COVID or even before, we find that we have a lot of puppy raisers that don't need to leave the dog home alone. So they never do it, but it's important for our dogs to learn that skill, so that then it's not the first time or one of the first times they're home alone when they come into advanced training. So you want to play with the pup and relieve them before you leave. Playing is good to tire them out. You do want to kind of leave on a calm note. I wouldn't want to like go all crazy and then boom, I'll be out the door. And then the dog's like, what happened? So you play and then put a little bit of a break into that, and then relieve them, and then go. You leave them in a small, safe, puppy-proofed area with a bed and a chew toy. So that could be one of those playpens, or maybe a mud room, or anything that prevents the dog from learning, practicing unwanted behaviors of chewing things up or jumping on the couch and such. And then you leave and return without a fuss. So we don't go, oh, I'll be back, and make a big deal out of it, which is like go. And again, you could use a bit of a peanut butter in a Kong or in a bone, and then you go outside the door. And in the beginning, I would just go and come right back. And now the dog's like, well, that was no big deal, and I had something nice to chew on. And then you slowly increase the time in that first week, so that it can go longer and longer. And then you leave your dog home alone while you do your grocery shopping, for example, like once the first settle-in phase is done, because grocery shopping and training a puppy, a young one, doesn't really go well together. So you rather go grocery shopping by yourself, leave the dog home, and then take the dog out for like a training exercise, or when you just need a bunch of bananas and you go in and out. Yeah. If your dog is barking or whining, you wait until they stop before letting them out. So you don't want to, sometimes that's not possible, but most of the time you just have to wait for a tiny moment where the dog stops barking or whining, just to avoid teaching them that they can bark or whine to make you come back and let them out, right? If the pup is having difficulties with being home alone, we don't see it a lot, but if there is, let us know. With anything, if you have trouble, just let your puppy training supervisor know. Magnet training. So this is a really good way to think about addressing demanding behavior. So this teaches the pup that good behavior gets your attention, not demanding behavior. Good behavior, like chewing on a toy or lying on the bed, draws you to them like a magnet. So every time the dog is nicely sitting there, nicely lying there or whatever, you're gonna go over, not every time, but a lot of times, like that's what's gonna make you interact with your dog, give them good things, whether that's pets, attention, or food. And then when the dog starts behaving in an undesirable way, like barking, nipping, or jumping, that breaks that magnetic force and removes your attention and drives you away. So that as a trainer, you should focus on reinforcing good choices and behavior, because behaviors that are reinforced are more likely to occur. So what happens most of the time, what we see a lot is like when the dog is being good, there's no acknowledgement. Nobody does anything. And so if you look at it out of the dog's point of view, they might lie there when you watch TV, and they're lying there quietly and nothing happens. And then they get bored, and then they bite your toe, and then all kinds of things are happening. We start looking at them, we start talking to them, we might bring out a toy to redirect them. So you get all kinds of things are happening, right? So that's why it's important to think about it that way. So when the dog lies down, make sure you acknowledge that and reinforce that doing nothing, because doing nothing is most of the time what we want them to do. Okay, we'll move to mark and reward. We use the marker word yes to indicate the exact moment in time when the pup offers a behavior you ask for, or to reinforce a behavior you like. So you might have heard of clicker training, and this is exactly the same principle. We're just using the word yes instead of the clicker. So the marker yes needs to be delivered in a sharp, short voice that is the same every time. You can give a food reward without marking, but if you mark with yes, you should always give a food reward. So I can say good boy and give a food reward, but yes should be the promise to my dog that food is on its way. So once we have that marker, a good way to look at it is like you're almost kind of taking a snapshot of your dog's behavior when they're doing something good, whether you ask them to do something or not. So your dog might check in with you, look at you, and you go yes, and then deliver a treat to let them know that was the moment that you liked. When they looked at you, that's what you liked. When you ask for sit, when their bum hits the ground, you go yes, and then the dog's like, oh, it's when my bum hits the ground. That's what Matthias was looking for. So yeah, you want to use it like that. And the way we load the marker is where we start by putting a treat pouch out of sight on our right hip. So we always have the treat pouch on the right hip out of sight. And then you say yes first, then reach for the treat. This is really important. You want to say yes, then reach for the treat and deliver it. Because if you reach for the treat at the same time or before saying yes, then your dog will just focus on your treat hand. And that will basically become your marker. So the dog should be focusing on the word. That's why you don't want to move before saying the word. You deliver the treat to the dog, and you don't wait for them to look or pay attention to you. So it doesn't matter when we load the marker. We just want to teach the dog yes means food. Doesn't matter what the dog is doing. You repeat a few times, about 2 to 3 times daily, until your dog responds to hearing yes by looking at you in an anticipation for a treat. So if I say yes and my dog goes, what? Then I know now my dog knows yes. So quick video on what that looks like.
Yes. 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 Okay, we'll stop there.
Good. So if we do that a couple times a day, pretty quickly the dog knows yes means treat. We could skip this whole exercise and just jump right in and start marking the dog for the right things. And the dog will pick up on it. But this exercise is also really, really beneficial for you as the handler to learn your mechanics, to actually learn to not reach for the treat before saying yes. So this exercise is even, I would say, more important for you as the handler than for the dog. Okay, we're gonna show a quick video on how we teach sit using a food lure.
Teaching sit. Place a kibble near the puppy's mouth, lift your hand up and slightly behind their head, mark the moment their bum touches the ground, and release the kibble.
Treat hand over the head. Dog sits. Yes.
When you have used a food lure 2 or 3 times, your puppy will be ready for a hand lure only. Using an empty hand, lure the puppy into a sit, mark the moment their bum touches the ground, then reach for the reward.
Oh.
Teaching sit.
Good. Another thing that we spend a lot of time on is check-ins, an auto check-in of the dog checking in with me on their own. Whenever they look at you, you just go yes, treat. And this teaches the dogs to check in with you more often. If you have a dog that checks in with you a lot, it's much easier to have them ask them for things that you need them to do. If than a dog that doesn't pay attention to you, right? So we just want to teach the dog that paying attention to you is worth the while. So here, a quick video on what that looks like.
A check-in occurs when the pup turns and makes eye contact with the handler without being prompted.
Hi, good job.
To teach the check-in, wait quietly for the pup to acknowledge you. When he turns and looks at you, mark with yes. Reward with use of you and multiple food rewards. Mark with yes as the puppy turns his head toward you, and then praise and reward with use of you and multiple food rewards. Mark with yes. To teach your pup to remain aware of you, be prepared to mark and reward check-ins throughout the day.
There you go. Good. Yeah, you're doing good.
Mark with yes.
What a cute little very good. Very nice. Nice job. Thanks for helping. Good boy. That was
Hi, good job. That's a girl. Yay for you.
Good. So a couple of comments to this video. It's not from our organization. So they do say you should mark with yes, but then they don't. They often say, hey, well, like, so I would just say yes, and then typically just use one kibble, yes, and then a food reward. And save the multiple food rewards, like for a jackpot. If the dog does something really amazing, then I'm gonna go good and like 5 treats, and the dog's like, whoa, okay, that was really worth my while. So an average one, I'm gonna give 1 treat. A better response, I'm gonna reward with multiple food rewards. And then they talked about use of you, which that is just praising the dog and loving on the dog, petting them, something that kind of gets missed a lot of times or put to side with the use of food. We have lots of people just get stuck on food, using food all the time, but we want to wean that off. So we want to use the food and combine it with praise and petting. So because eventually we'll want to move away from the food, but still use praise and petting as a reward. Okay, this is a bit of a longer video, and that's about follow me. So this is a really important exercise. When you go on your first outings, this should be kind of the focus on what you do. You basically want to teach your dog to pay attention to you, even around distractions, and you just teach them that following you is rewarding and good. So rather than going for a walk and going and walking through distracting environments, you should just change directions lots and just have the dog follow you. And when they do, you reward them lots. So I'll just play the video and let you watch it.
Follow Me is a critical core foundation skill that teaches puppies to be aware of and keep track of you by following you and being rewarded for it. Puppies are naturally curious about their world and instinctively follow their mother when they are very young. Follow Me reinforces and builds on this natural instinct to help develop the pup's social skills to continue the same natural connection with humans. Spending time on developing a solid Follow Me at a very early age pays off as your little puppy grows into a full-size adult dog. Follow Me builds the pup's skills to walk attentively with you without pulling on the leash and builds the relationship and connection between you and your puppy. Practicing Follow Me. First, be worth following. Make a connection. You make a connection by starting a conversation with the pup using an upbeat, happy, and soothing tone of voice, and give some treat rewards one at a time, talking to the puppy as you deliver each piece of kibble. Say, let's go, and back up a few steps with a food treat in hand. This allows the pup to move forward. Backing away from the pup draws the pup to you. Praise the pup for walking with you and give a food reward. Good job. Walk forward, giving the pup lots of leash and an opportunity to decide to follow you. Observe that pup is following, and as soon as he does, stop and get lots of praise with your smiles, happy voice, followed by additional praise and rewards. Reward the pup's choice to keep following, moving short distances and adding a few turns by saying, this way, then turning. Remember to let the pup choose to follow and keep with you. Praise and reward. Change the direction you are moving in so that you don't become predictable and boring. In the beginning, you keep sessions short, but repeat follow me multiple times throughout the day and in different situations. Important to practice follow me in increasingly distracting and varied areas and situations, such as the living room, the backyard, your driveway, strip malls, and anywhere you might socialize the puppy. They will learn that choosing you and keeping track of you is rewarding. What successful follow me looks like. The pup follows you and works to keep up with you, even when you turn. The puppy may stop and check something out, but then quickly catches up with you. You walk ahead without looking back or continue prompting the pup to follow you, but you stay very attentive to provide lots of praise and food rewards as soon as the pup makes the good decision to follow you. Problem solving. If the pup has fallen behind and isn't following, stop and wait for the pup to reconnect. When the pup does come to you, praise and give lots of rewards. If the pup seems to have completely forgotten you, return to the pup and start from the beginning by reconnecting and showing the pup you are fun to be with. You may need to pick the pup up and move to a less distracting area in the beginning. Key points. The pup follows because people are fun to be with. Start connected and tell the pup you are leaving by saying, let's go. Stop, praise, and reward frequently for following. Change your speed and direction saying this way so the pup knows you are turning. Change direction and say this way if the pup passes you. Keep sessions short, but do it frequently throughout the day, everywhere and anywhere. Final thoughts. Developing a very solid Follow Me foundation from the beginning will help the pup make a smooth transition into loose leash walking. He will learn that wherever he goes, it is his responsibility to keep track of you and to see the world with you. Follow Me is a life skill that the pup will use throughout its life as a working guide dog.
All right. Good. Next topic, another thing that we start working on right away is whistle feeding. So we need to teach the dogs to be calm and patient around mealtime because they can quickly become overly excited about food and start jumping up or whatever. So this exercise is to help with that. It also teaches the dog that the whistle, like they make the association between whistle means food, and then we are gonna use the whistle as a recall tool. So while we use it for whistle feeding, we should also blow the whistle occasionally and just with food reward the dog for coming to you, so that the dog goes like, when I hear the whistle, I'll go to Matthias and I'll get a reward. So as the food gets put down, You can say leave it, but typically in the beginning they don't really understand leave it yet. So instead what I would do is just lift up the bowl if they, wait a second, I'm going to start again. So we want to restrain the dog. We can hold them by the chest, and then if the dog goes towards the food, you can say leave it or not. It doesn't really matter that much, but more important is that the bowl goes up. Dog tries to go for the food, the bowl goes up, dog sits down, bowl comes down again. And every time the dog tries to go for the food, the bowl goes up. And ideally, we don't have that repeat itself too many times. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the dog quite a bit away from the food, and I'm going to bring the bowl down here. That's going to be much easier for the dog than putting it right in front of them, right? And you can break your pup's meals into mini meals and practice it 3-4 times. So then that way you'll slow down the dog from eating too fast, and it also gives you numerous repetitions to improve your dog's skill. So there's a really great video that we're going to show on staying out of the kitchen. So we want the dogs to stay out of the kitchen, and Sandra is doing a great job here body blocking the dog from coming into the kitchen. It's a great example of how persistent you might need to be, and that's really how you show leadership. Like the dog is going to try again and again, and Sandra keeps interrupting the dog until the dog gives up, and now she'll continue preparing the food. So you'll see for your own, on your own.
Sit. Good sit. Good girl. Good sit. Out of the kitchen. Good sit. Nope. Good girl. Good sit. Let's go. Hey, good girl. That's it. Good sit. What a good girl. All right, let's go. That's it. Good sit. Leave it. No. No.
So there the bowl, yeah, goes
Good.
up,
Leave it.
moving forward, and then comes down as the dog stays.
Good girl. Stay. Stay.
She always follows.
Down. Down. Sit.
Good. So later on we can add obedience drills before dinner, for example, to speed up the down, for example, if the dog is really slow in the downs. And just again, like I would make the behavior, so if my dog moves towards that bowl, I would just bring that bowl up right away. And then very quickly they stop moving towards it because they know moving forward will make the bowl go up. Don't play the game, please. There we go. Good. Just a quick review. So first week home, what we want to do is introduce the bell and leash relief using Get Busy. We want to manage the environment to keep them safe. We want to take them for short car rides. We want to leave them alone for short periods of time. Focus on reinforcing good behavior. Loading the marker. Teach sit. Reward check-ins. Use Follow Me to walk your dog inside and out. And introduce whistle feeding. So you have lots to do here. Lots of times we find repeat puppies just jump to other things and they start teaching down, they start teaching close and heel. That is not necessary and it might be too much. So just stick to this. Look, you have lots to do here and perfect those things. Work on sit continuously, work on the check-in slots, follow me. Really, you don't need to do anything extra. Regardless of where your puppy ends up in this process, know that you have been a part of changing someone's life. Like I feel like even our non-qualifiers, like everybody has a story how the dogs have affected someone's life, and our graduating dogs, like it's just incredible the things they do, and we could not do that without you. So thank you so much for taking on this huge challenge. It's exciting, it's fun. But it will be frustrating at times, and believe us, we know it, and we are very grateful for all your hard work. And if all else fails, you could always try to show the training videos to your puppy. Good luck with that. You might want to call the supervisor instead. All right, thanks so much. That's it.